on, everybody? Obviously, the title of this video is a joke. I don't know what everybody's thinking. I got a shit ton of comments on the video I put out a couple days ago saying that because I'm such a stickler for technique that I must hate Marty Friedman's guitar technique. And I just thought that was the weirdest comment ever. I wanted to address that because Marty Friedman is one of my favorite guitar players, probably in the top 5. For those that are, viewers of the channel, often, that my favorite metal album ever is Rust in Peace. And who's featured on that album? Marty Friedman, the lead guitar player for Megadeth during that era. And I just think it's kind of funny, how many people on the video are like, very appalled, I guess, that I was such a stickler for sweep picking, but it's like, I literally have merch that says sweep picking is dope. Of course I'm gonna be passionate about sweep picking, dude. No guitarists have been harmed in the making of this video. But I want to, talk about a couple things. And first, before I talk about a couple things, showcase this beautiful acoustic guitar. Check it out. You know who made this guitar? My dad. Literally, from scratch. My dad built this guitar. If you yourself want a custom guitar, my dad also built this. Pretty sick. He did all the inlays himself too. Literally built this from a block of wood. Can you believe that? Email me if you want to get in touch with my dad and you're looking for a custom build. I am taking new students at the time of this filming, so if you want lessons from me, make sure you email me directly. Put in the subject line lessons. My email is in the link in the description as well as the pinned comment, and if it's a good fit, I'll look forward to working with you. But anyways, let's jump into the subject. Obviously, I totally clickbaited you into this video. Sorry for that. But I just thought it'd be funny to address some of these comments. Yeah, everyone thinks that I hate Marty Friedman over the guitar technique. I just found that to be like a really weird thing. I kind of want to talk about his technique because it is one of the most unique electric guitar techniques that we've seen. If you're a big fan of Marty Friedman, you would know that his guitar technique really derives from a lot of Japanese influences. Now you can hear, of course, all of his Japanese scales, even influencing other guitar players such as Jason Becker. They had Cacophony together at one point, and then when you hear Altitudes by Jason Becker, you'll hear a couple considered Japanese scales. Marty Friedman obviously influenced that even on Jason Becker. And really, if you hear any guitar solo, you pretty much immediately know it's Marty Friedman playing it. There's never a question in that sense. He has a pretty iconic sound, obviously. You heard me, attempting to get through my own rendition there of the Tornado of Souls guitar solo. Now, of course, I ran out of frets. I thought it'd be cool to do it acoustic because I figured I'm probably going to get a copyright strike on this video if I actually play it to the backing track. And also, there's a billion covers of the actual guitar solo, so I should try to do something more interesting to lure you into the video. So I was like, jazz acoustic Tornado of Souls. Playing that on an acoustic guitar was one of the most difficult things that I've done in a while. I'm gonna be honest, that took me quite a bit of practice before actually recording the takes for that. And even then, there's a couple rough spots in there, but hey, you know what? You can roast me, I guess. With Marty Friedman's Japanese style, we should really take this back to an instrument that you'll find a lot more of the style, because really I wanted to kind of open the door here to talk about his right hand. A lot of people say that he plays weird, and he does play weird to people that are not used to seeing that style of playing. But really, sweep picking in general kind of comes more from the gypsy-jazz guys like Django Reinhardt, Borelli Legren. That's, even actually you can find videos of Les Paul doing some kinds of sweeps. They're usually forward sweeps on the guitar, something like this where you see kind of the angled hand position, which is what you see Marty Friedman basically over-exaggerating. But also, like I said, if you watch a lot of the gypsy-jazz guys like Borelli Legren, Django Reinhardt, their wrist looks the same because you get a lot of attack out of the pick. But to take you kind of on a journey here, let's go all the way back to the instrument, the lute. Basically, the lute is a medieval instrument that kind of came to light in medieval Europe. Early lutes were often played with feather quills, basically like a guitar pick, cut from a bird feather, used like a long, flexible guitar pick, unlike the guitar picks that we have now that are very short and stubby. The quill was usually folded and shaped, and the players would strike the strings with a smooth curved side of the quill, basically how you see Marty Friedman pick. That gives us a very rounded but articulate attack. And it definitely does, because if you listen to the gypsy jazz players, you'll always hear that very aggressive downstroke in their playing, which literally comes from the angle of their pick and how they're holding it, similar to the lute. Historically, these picks were either made from eagle feather or other large bird quills. Because of it being long and flexible, players hold it in a way that puts their wrists in a sharp angle to the strings. Right hand motion is more forearm rotation and rest stroke style, where a lot of our techniques of pick slanting derive from. A very similar thing, where rather flat picking, we're hitting the pick at an angle on the strings. Now, of course, when you look at Marty Friedman, he's almost more in the old school, which is really old school, medieval style of lute feather quill holding rather, which is how you get this nice attack. More modest pick slants that Troy Grady teaches us is not incorrect technique, but actually looks like a historical lute technique. This brings us into the Japanese lute. Japan doesn't really do feather picks on lutes, but they do have a hyper-angled whole arm plectrum that is very similar. The strings are plucked with a sharp top angle, and the players use it not just to pluck, but to scrape the strings and hit the body for a very percussive, aggressive attack. Sound like gypsy jazz much? Marty's hand honestly looks closer to that, or to the Middle Eastern lute players with the feather quills, than a modern flat pick, alternate picking type of shredder. If you're into other styles of music, if you've kind of explored that realm with guitar playing, you'll find that Marty Friedman's technique really isn't all that weird. It's just less common for shredders or really people in the metal genre to hold the pick with that same angle. Now, a lot of you are going to feel like I'm beating a dead horse with this one, but Yngwie Malmsteen is another guitar player that uses a very similar style of what we would call gypsy picking, which rather than him holding the pick at an extreme angle and also doing gypsy picking on his descending runs, which is where he actually only picks even amounts of notes, still alternate picking when doing his string changes. So if he has 3 notes on a string, he'll only pick 2 of the notes and do a pull off, etc. So basically gypsy picking, all in all, is basically a mix of economy picking and pseudo alternate legato style playing. The general rule of thumb is you economy pick on ascending licks and alternate pick and use legato when you have uneven amounts of notes descending to keep the same downward pick slant angle. Now you see this angle over exaggerated, of course, like I said, with players like Marty Friedman, Borelli, Legren, etc. And occasionally you'll even see Marty flip his hand the other way to play maybe only a couple of notes, but generally he keeps that downward pick slant at the supinated angle, very similarly to the Japanese and European lute players. So really this technique has been around for centuries at this point. We just use it less commonly now on the guitar, but really I've kind of taken myself a lot from some of these players. Of course I don't only play in that style, so my hand is never really at this extreme supinated position, but I do find there's certain runs that are easier to play when using that hand position than if I were to just use regular alternate picking. With that being said, I just wanted to give you this short expose on my enthusiasm for Marty Friedman, as he is seriously in probably my top 5 favorite guitar players. Definitely has influenced me a ton, and like I said, favorite album, metal album ever is Rust in Peace, which features all of his solos. What more is there to say? He's a legend. He's great. Obviously the title of this video was just clickbait. So I hope maybe you learned something from today's video. What are your thoughts? Do you like Marty Friedman? Hopefully you do. And if you want lessons from me and you want to learn how to play like Marty Friedman or really any of the guitar players aforementioned in any of these picking styles, email me. My email is in the link in the description as well as a pinned comment. And if it's a good fit, I'll look forward to working with you. Make sure you title the subject line lessons when you email me, and I appreciate all of you for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one.